Evening and welcome to the Waterloo City Council work session. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bozen?
Here.
Mr. Nichols?
Here.
Ms. Creighton-Smith? Mr. Childs?
Here.
Mr. Simon?
Here.
Ms. Wilder? Mr. Foyce?
Here. May I have a motion, please?
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the amendment as proposed and the minutes of the June 17th, 2024 council work session as proposed or amended.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And first up, we have an update from Main Street Waterloo. Ms. Rucker, good to see you.
Hi, long time no see.
Hi.
Well, good afternoon. Obviously, Jessica Rucker, Executive Director of Main Street Waterloo. Thank you guys for allowing me the time to give you an update on what we've been doing over the past year. Main Street Waterloo is a nonprofit organization, volunteer-driven with 2 full-time staff members. We're dedicated to maintaining and enhancing the vitality of our downtown center through historic preservation, economic development, and community engagement. A huge part of our work is to promote the fact that downtown is a great, safe, and vibrant place to live, work, and play. We've been an accredited Main Street community since 1996. We have a 13 voting member board of directors that is made up of young professionals, business owners, property owners, downtown employees, downtown residents, and people who just have a passion for downtown Waterloo. So one thing that I don't think I've ever remembered to do with this presentation is include a map of our district. We talk about how large it is, but I wanted to make sure that I included that this time. So this is our downtown districts. It is about 76 blocks, 374 parcels, approximately 4.5 square miles. We work with more than 200 businesses and 100 property owners in our district. Most communities our size with a defined district this big would split it up into multiple smaller districts. We're just crazy and love to be one, so we keep ours large. We are the largest defined district within the Main Street communities in Iowa, and we are in like the top 5 in the Main Street America network for size. Some information I have for you today and that you'll see in your report is coming from Esri. They take the point centralized in our downtown, so I think they took 501 Sycamore, the Blacks building, and then got numbers out from there. There's a population of 20,950 within a 5-minute drive of the heart of our community, with approximately 9,836 workers. There's about 8,586 households within that 5-minute radius, and we're projected to see a 0.08% growth from 2023 to 2028. We also have, in that 5-minute drive, it's a $21,683 per capita income. The median age is 34 and a half. And we show a 92.9% employment rate within that 5-minute radius. So those are just some numbers that are right within our downtown. Oh, I guess I forgot to put the graphics up with that, sorry.
Do you have a map of your 5-minute radius?
I can pull that from Esri. I didn't include it. It's the 5-minute drive, but I can pull that in the Esri report and send it to you for sure. In the fall, we had a strategic planning session to set our strategic priorities for the next 3 years, which also directed what Main Street America requires and calls our transformation strategies. Our first transformation strategy is to improve the perception of downtown Waterloo, and we're working towards this by just trying to work towards dispelling some of the negative stereotypes and misconceptions people have about downtown through strategic marketing, community events, fostering partnerships. We are showcasing the vibrant culture, historic richness, and vibrancy that we have in our downtown. Our second transformation strategy is the sustainability of our organization, and we're looking to diversify our revenue streams, looking at our long-term financial plans, adding to staff, and creating an internship program. Our third transformation strategy is community unity, working on inclusive programming, multicultural events in downtown, participatory decision-making process, and then connecting the community to ensure that all voices are heard. We also have a strategic goal to do a better job of telling our story with and demonstrating our economic impact that we have on downtown. A strategic goal of volunteer recruitment and recruiting 75 new volunteers each year. And then downtown beautification. So working on creating that wish list of projects we'd like to see happen in downtown, and then working with different partners and the city to ensure that some of these projects happen and that downtown beautification is part of the projects that are happening that maybe we aren't taking the lead on. We also developed organizational core values. And so Main Street Waterloo embodies forward thinking, embracing change as a catalyst for progress. We're willing to depart from the norm in order to grow and reach towards our goals. We uphold honesty and integrity. We prioritize transparency and accountability. We connect through relationships and relationship building and community collaboration. We advocate for Waterloo and work towards common goals. And then we are committed to enhancing the downtown district and dedicated to sharing our story with all. Main Street Waterloo believes our community is for everyone. Our work is guided by our core values of forward thinking, honesty and integrity, connectedness and commitment. We are dedicated to creating shared prosperity, equal access to opportunity, and inclusive engagement. We're proud of our efforts to prioritize rich diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility in each of our programs and actions. So thinking about the transformation strategies that I just mentioned, one of them being sustainability of our organization, I'm beyond thrilled to share we've added to staff. It's not just me. We have shifted our part-time admin position to a full-time event specialist, so somebody who's going to be focusing on the events and freeing up more of my time to work on some of the other areas, fundraising, economic development, and historic preservation. We have also started working with UNI and having interns. Sierra Amin is our social media marketing specialist and started with us in the winter or the spring semester and will be with us through the end of the year. Samaria Barnes is our food truck festival marketing intern. And then Morgan Hensey will be joining our team next month as a project management intern, focusing on a few specific projects that have to do with city, fundraising, and event planning. So we're excited to have some staff and people there to help. The Main Street America Main Street approach is a time-tested framework for community-driven, comprehensive revitalization. And utilizing the Main Street approach, we're able to create a place of shared prosperity, equal access to opportunity, and inclusive engagement. We work to capitalize on the unique identity, assets, and character of our 2 historic commercial districts. And since becoming a Main Street community in 1996, there has been $148.37 million in private investment in our downtown district. 318 buildings have been rehabilitated, with 17 of those being completed between 2020 and 2023. We have 4 councils as part of the Main Street America 4-point approach, and several of the projects in these numbers come from our design council. The design council specifically has been working on things like holiday decor, flowers, public art, downtown lighting, Tour de Lou in collaboration with the Historic Preservation Commission, as well as Main Street Sweep, our spring cleanup day, where we had 15 volunteers, collected 82 bags of trash, 24 bags of yard waste, which ended up being about 4,000 pounds of trash that we picked up between a couple of clean out areas and picking up from downtown. So we're really thankful to those volunteers. The design committee or design council reviewed 13 different signs, 2 building projects, 2 facade improvements, 4 sidewalk cafes, and 3 projects reviewed and working with them to meet code and standards in order to get their projects completed. We're also excited that we are going to be working with Sierra on the Martin Flats project and hopefully helping them to get a Main Street Iowa Challenge grant. Our Economic Vitality Council is working to identify new opportunities for downtown, find new uses for historic buildings, improving arts, culture, riverfront investments, tourism. We have seen 247 net new businesses since becoming a Main Street community in 1996, 17 net new businesses 2020 to 2023, and then we have 6 more that should be opening by the end of third quarter. There has been 686 net new jobs since 1996, with 97 jobs from 2020 to 2023. This group is also tasked with downtown business meetings, Shop Downtown Saturdays, helping with the downtown parking conversation, and they also launched the Support Local Cash Mobs that launched shortly after my presentation last year. And this is where we select a business and gather the community to mob them with support and spend at least $20 each month. We're averaging about 40 attendees at each of those, with 75% of them being the first time they had visited that particular business, which was a goal, is to show people in the community all of these different businesses that we have downtown that they weren't familiar with. This group also is the ones that have been tasked with the Downtown Impact Grant. This launched in 2022 with a golf tournament to raise funds. It was awarded to Gray Lane Yoga in 2022 with their project being completed last year. Since the completion of adding aerial yoga and bungee fitness, they've seen a 40% growth in their business, and they're expanding this year as well. The 2023 grant was awarded to Tri-Pie Bakery to help purchase the cold storage delivery vehicle. I don't have numbers yet because it's just been purchased, and they're starting to get out there and do more. So hopefully at my next presentation, we'll have some numbers on how that's impacted their business. Also, part of the grant, we are working with them to showcase their storefront and make people more aware that they have a storefront where we could leave this meeting and go buy a fresh pie and go ahead and indulge today. You don't just have to go buy a frozen one and cook it at home. And then our third grant will be awarded this year. The application we're hoping to have live in September. The funds for this are typically raised through our golf tournament, which did unfortunately get rained out, but we have already raised $5,000 towards the grant, and we have a goal of raising another $5,000 before the grant goes live in September. The Organization Council is the foundation of the entire Main Street program. We partner with various and diverse groups in the community to reach a consensus on important issues while creating a shared vision for downtown. This group is in charge of our volunteer recruitment, volunteer recognition, fundraising, and a lot of those collaborative partnerships that I talk about. We've seen 96,520 hours, volunteer hours since 1996, with 2,294 in 2023. Bev Dirks was recognized as our Volunteer of the Year at the Main Street Iowa Awards earlier this year. Chris Hale was recognized at the Governor's Volunteer Awards last month, and the Food Truck Festival Planning Committee was recognized at the Governor's Volunteer Awards last month as well. Our strategic planning set a goal of recruiting 75 new volunteers each year over the next 3 years, and so far in 2024, we have recruited 57 new volunteers to the organization. One of our transformation strategies includes diversifying our funding, so having money to operate beyond just hosting events. And we have been successful and seen a 57% increase in our fundraising dollars. Bragging about what we have accomplished and sharing our economic impact is another goal. And we have successfully created our first annual report, which is what I have given each of you a hard copy of. For 2024, we'll have this bigger, in-depth financial or annual report, and then we'll have a one-pager, just kind of quick glance too. So we'll be expanding on that each year and improving on it. So any comments and things you would like to see in our annual report, we're open to hear. Our Promotions Council works to promote downtown as the center of commerce, culture, and community life for residents and visitors. This Promotions Council is extremely energetic, organized, creative, and open to new ideas, while reviewing old ones and having fun in the process. Main Street Waterloo hosts more than 40 events each year that attract approximately 25,000 people to these events. We see more than 500 volunteers with more than 2,000 volunteer hours. This is creating an economic impact or direct economic impact of more than $800,000 each year. We have developed an ROI matrix to evaluate each of our events, helping us determine if we should be hosting the event or if there's another organization that would be better suited to help host that event. Also helping us make the tough decisions if an event should continue or if maybe it's run its course. We look at how each event meets our vision and mission statements, community engagement, the cost of hosting an event, the time it takes for volunteers and staff. And every event then gets a score, and it really takes the emotion out of it and allows us to make strategic decisions about the events that we're hosting. In January, I attended year 2 of the International Festival and Events Association Event Management School, and I graduated with my Certified Festival and Event Associate designation. Also, with this picture, Main Street, Iowa has been working with Japanese researcher Hiro Matsumoto for about 12 years now. Hiro lives just outside Tokyo and has been doing research, writing a book, and building community leader interest in bringing the Main Street approach to Japan. Hiro has visited Iowa a number of times, But in June, for the first time, he brought 8 community leaders and economic developers with him to visit a few select communities. Through his research, he's identified Main Street Iowa as one of the key model programs, and they're now taking the next steps to creating a Main Street program in Japan. Noel and Tim joined us for a nice lunch and a tour of downtown, as well as a presentation about our downtown district. Hero was here about 10 years ago and really noticed and commented on the changes and improvements that have happened since he was here last. They were also really thrilled to learn about how Main Street Waterloo and the city of Waterloo work together in our partnership. The work we're doing in downtown is truly getting noticed. Waterloo is featured in numerous state and national presentations, whether I'm presenting or people at our state level or some of the groups that we've worked with are including us in their presentation. And I recently was asked to present at the Minnesota State Main Street Conference about the work that we've done and the progress we've made in Waterloo. And they've invited me back to present to their monthly directors meeting as well. So as we continue to grow as an organization, we've continued to partner more and more with the city on projects, taking the lead on communication and helping with coordination on aspects of the Waterloo River Lights project, collaborative conversations on business recruitment, partnering to bring more awareness to Historic Preservation Commission, having Noel in the Central Battery Building on tour to help educate about the 657A process, working with the city on sidewalk cafes and parklets, working with the city on downtown parking, conversations around the unhoused in downtown, partnerships with the Cedar Valley Sportsplex and Waterloo Center for the Arts, and I could go on, but I'll stop there. But as we take on more projects and partner with the city more, as well as taking into account the increase of cost of goods, services, and materials, and not having an increase in our professional service agreement since 2020, you will see in our professional service agreement that there is a 10% increase in that a dollar amount. It was agreed that this reflects the current economic conditions and expanded scope of our responsibilities. That is the only change in our professional service agreement for this year. We look forward to continuing to work with the city to ensure downtown Waterloo is a place with character where people feel connected and that people know it is a great place to raise a family, start a new business, build community, and forge the future. Any questions?
Council,
Mayor Pro Tem.
Mr. Boson.
Of the 247 businesses since 1996, do we still have all 247?
So that is the net number, so it already subtracts out, we had far more than that open
Okay.
since 1996, and that's the net, so it's already subtracted out the businesses who have closed.
So how many have closed?
I would have to go back and look at that number, but since 2018, I can tell you that it's less than 50. It's far less than 50, but I don't want to underestimate my guess, but I have the report here that I can pull and look.
Any further, sorry.
No, and personally, and I appreciate everything Main Street does, I personally think our geographic area is too big. I don't think a town of 66,000 people should have the 5th largest Main Street in the United States, because that's just that much more that we have to concentrate on to put our funding in and to do. I would like to see our Main Street more streamlined. I always thought Main Street should be East and West 4th myself, but that's just me, but going all the way to Tech Works and then the expansion, I mean, it's a narrow expansion on the east side. We really expanded on the west side. But that's just my own personal opinion. That's all I have, sir.
Okay,
Since 2018, we have lost 17 businesses.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, when you're done.
To address the size of our district, it used to be much smaller, and we did expand it through strategic conversations as to what people thought of when they thought of our downtown is how we ended up with what our district looks like today and the size. Also, the SMID conversation plays a factor into the size of our district and the conversations we had with property owners as to who should be in the district and who shouldn't.
Because I personally thought that one of the reasons we expanded the district was to create more SMID money.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the opposite reason in my book to expand it.
The area that we expanded to didn't necessarily create more SMID dollars, but it did include some businesses for that healthy competition. And business owners were saying they might work against us getting SMID when we get to that point if collectively some of these businesses were not included in the SMID district.
'Cause I really don't see the popularity of SMID right now. And I didn't see the popularity of it when we were gonna ask for the city to match what the property owners put into Schmidt, because it was gonna be about another $180,000 out of the city's budget to match that Schmidt. Does that figure sound about correct?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Summers?
Has there been any more talk about, we've got something on the agenda tonight about safety downtown, bike trails and bike paths through the city. Has there been any talk internally with making it part of Waterloo, like a ped mall area where there is no roads going through? Is that something that we've ever looked at, or?
It's a conversation. Councilman Bozen definitely has started the conversation. I have a meeting with the Iowa ABD on Friday to look at what the legalities and logistics of doing a ped mall in our area would be. It is in conversation. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to get people excited in case Iowa ABD gives us information that prevents us from moving forward. But it is something we're evaluating for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. May? Mr. Child?
So last year, over the last couple years, actually, we've been working really hard on getting this parklet and sidewalk cafe ordinance created. And it took a lot of city time, a lot of my personal time, a lot of your time to get it created. But I'm not seeing any parklets. And I was really disturbed by that because I thought we had some lined up and ready, and we had the dollars. I believe there was even grant funding to help these people build their parklets, and we waived the fee this first year, and I still haven't seen any. So could you just give me an update on what's happening there? Why haven't I seen any?
So the conversations around parklets has been very difficult. As you know, it used to be a resolution for sidewalk cafes, and so there wasn't an enforcement, and people weren't applying and paying a fee every year, which was one of the reasons why an ordinance was created, to ensure that this was all being monitored. That process has been, I guess, it's a change. So it's difficult. People don't like change for the business owners. And they've been so wrapped up in the process of getting the first step of doing the sidewalk cafe that they pushed off the parklets. Also, even through all of the conversations and having people who were pretty positive they were going to do a parklet as soon as we got it passed, didn't think through how would I move the parklet and where am I going to store it. So in order to help them, we kind of need some designs, but there's some conversations we can have about where they could store them, but how they get moved is part of the problem. Our hope is this first year with the new ordinance, with the sidewalk cafes, everyone understands it more. They're prepared for next year, and they can actually have a plan in place, like with plans and a budget for parklets for next year. We're all really bummed that it did not happen this first year like we thought it would. But we've got all the pieces in place for it to happen moving forward.
Is there a way that we can ensure this happens next year? Because I'd like to see our 4th Street lit up with them. Because I think that's necessary for people to understand this gap. And again, there was a lot of work put in to make this happen. So I think we really need to get some out there, especially for this upcoming year, because we didn't get them this year, obviously. Is there something that we need to do? Is there something that Main Street needs to do? Is there something that Experience Waterloo needs to do? What needs to happen to make sure that these businesses know that they have this option? Because if I remember correctly, we only wrote in the waiver of fee for a year. Would that be correct, Mrs. Clerk?
Yeah, that is only for this year.
Yeah. So that makes it more challenging next year.
Correct. There's definitely pushback. There are businesses who have gone through the proper steps to have their sidewalk cafe, and there's businesses who have not gone through the proper steps and have tables and chairs outside. So there's pushback and testing of the city right now.
Okay.
So I think we all just need to get on the same page and have those conversations and make sure that they're following through, the city's following through, Main Street's following through on the project.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Nichols, did you have anything? No? Oh. All right, thank you very much.
Can
Is
I
there-
just end by
Yeah,
saying
absolutely.
thank you to all of the different departments, all of the different city staff, for all of the assistance they give to Main Street Waterloo with the events and the projects we do. We wouldn't be able to do it without the partnership of all of you too, so, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next up, a discussion of Waterloo fire rescue fees. Chief Beck.
Good afternoon. I'm Bill Beck, Chief of Fire Services. Today I'd like to revisit 3 ideas that Waterloo Fire Rescue has had in the past, over the past several years, to possible methods for some cost recovery. We'll start with an idea that's never been implemented, and then we'll have 2 methods that we've had in the past that have stopped over time. We're going to first start with the idea of charging a service fee for car fires. Before I get into depth in some of the cost coverage for car fires, I'd like to explain everything that occurs when Waterloo Fire Rescue is paged out to a car fire. On a typical car fire, a single fire truck with 3 firefighters responds from the nearest station. The following is what they do, what they need, and what contingencies may occur. When the fire truck arrives, the crew will put the fire hose off the truck and, using water from the fire truck, extinguish the fire, which in theory seems fairly cut and dry, pun intended. But even an average car fire takes much further involvement. We need to have a giant toolbox that we call a fire engine. We need to have a properly trained crew. We need that municipal water supply that we're also proud of. We need structural firefighting gear. We need SCBAs for the carcinogen leaded, God darn it, all the carcinogens in the smoke. The fire hoses and forcible entry tools to make access into the engine compartment, passenger compartment, and trunk area of the vehicle. A typical fire scene on a car fire for Waterloo Fire Rescue is 42 minutes from the page out to cleaning up and putting the truck back in service. If the vehicle's in traffic, Waterloo Police Department is utilized to divert oncoming traffic. We will use our in-house fire marshal if the fire seems incendiary in nature. If the vehicle has a large fire load, such as a semi-tractor and trailer, additional fire engines may be called to assist in fire suppression. If any injuries occur during the incident, the crew will call for a Waterloo Fire Rescue ambulance. Creating a billing system would be as simple as creating a flat fee through an ordinance. It's simpler and more easily revenue tracked method as opposed to something where we would do it by hour or through used consumables. $500 is a typical maximum amount payable by private auto insurance agencies for fire department fees. My first proposed ordinance that you'll see next week is to include a $500 fee to be covered by the owner. The owner will then submit a claim to their insurance carrier or pay the fee out of pocket. So now that I've said the magic word insurance, enter your auto insurance. Car fires that are not caused by collision are covered under what's called comprehensive coverage. Comprehensive coverage is often called full coverage. This coverage is needed when your car still has a loan against it. A majority of comprehensive insurance coverage includes verbiage stating in case of fire, insurance will cover fire department fees. Most policies cap that fee at $500. According to Progressive's website, 79% of Iowans hold comprehensive coverage. MarketRate.com states people typically drop their comprehensive insurance after a car turns 10 years of age. I give you these stats because the majority of our car fires are on cars that are over 10 years old, thus would not commonly be covered. I also wanted to show some statistics from Bankright's website. On average, a new car costs $47,000. And the average car on the road today is worth $26,000. Waterloo Fire Rescue would invoice a $500 fee to be covered by insurance on a $26,000 average car car investment. On a totaled car fire, which is often the case, when the insurance company is paying out a $26,000 claim, $500 equals a 2% increase to that $26,000. Over the last 3 years, Waterloo Fire Rescue has responded to 116 car fires, averaging 38.5 per year. At $500 apiece, that would be a revenue gain of $58,000 over those 3 years on paper. I would like to have the ability as chief to waive any incident where the owner was underinsured or self-insured and met a certain waiver policy as far as hardship goes. Going back to that progressive quote stating that 79% of auto owners were covered, that would be only $45,820 of those 38.5 car fires per year that Waterloo has that would be covered under their insurance. So divide that by 3 for the 3 years, you would get $15,273 in possible revenue, or I'm sorry, in a cost recovery. I feel that number is honestly high. I use that with my personal observation of 30 years as being a firefighter and being on multiple car fires. A majority of the car fires we go to are not covered with comprehensive insurance, are much older than 10 years old. And listen, I drive a 16-year-old truck. I just like old vehicles. Those people are out there. Everybody's got a mechanic special or a friend that has a mechanic special. Those are the ones that more often than not are the car fires. Logistically, it would take no additional paperwork or tracking system. Company officers are required to get the information we need already. We would do some additional training just to make sure that they're doing that, getting the owner's name, their insurance policy, those types of things. Billing would be done in-house and by on-shift personnel in order to qualify In order to qualify for any type of waiver, the owner must show that they are underinsured and meets the financial hardships that we would set. Do I have any questions over just the car fires?
Council,
Mayor Pro Tem.
Mr. Boson?
So on the flat fee, we're not billing the insurance carrier.
We would bill the owner, and the owner would have to
Be responsible to bill
be
the
responsible
insurance
to their
carrier.
insurance.
Because historically, I mean, I investigated a number of car fires. Very few of those people even had insurance.
Right.
So, so we're gonna be billing the individual, but I do appreciate the fact that if they don't have insurance, that if they meet a certain income guideline and financial hardship, you have the ability to waive it.
Right. We're not looking to kick anybody under down.
Okay, appreciate it, thank you.
Mr. Pro Tem. And then Mr. Nichols.
Is this gonna add to any additional personnel hours? Is this?
No, this will all
is
be done
just-
on shift by on-shift personnel.
So there's no additional, okay, thank you.
Mr. Nichols.
Was there any, I guess, benchmark you're using for the waiver eligibility?
We're still
guidelines or-
kicking that around a little bit. One idea is we do have a waiver system hardship policy for our EMS calls where people can waive their ambulance fees. Looking into something like that, using the EBT level of income would be another good example. What we want is we want a defined line. So it's not, it would protect me as a chief being able to do that, but also we have a hard and fast rule.
Chief, would it be just, sorry, Mr. Nichols, were you done? So would it be just cut and dry, 0 or 500? Would there be any proration?
There would not be outside of it being, for example, using a semi and trailer where we've got multiple apparatus there. That might be a possibility. As of right now, I'm setting just as a flat fee.
Okay. And then I had another question, but continue. Mr. Giles, I'm sorry.
So we are currently not recovering any of this cost.
True. A few years ago, Chief Treelor brought this upon the council and it was denied. This would take an actual ordinance.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you,
All right.
Mr. Ryan.
My second one is the use of floor dry and absorbents in fluid leaks. We now have the ability to track and charge for any flammable liquid leaks that occur during a mitigation call. Unlike charging for car fires, this practice was common up until about 2019 when we stopped being easily able to track its usage. Back then, we charged a flat rate of $75 per bag for the absorbent used. This cost covered the replacement of the absorbent as well as the manpower to disperse it. I would be asking for a fee change from $75 to $150 per 40-pound bag of floor dry. This fee not only covers the consumable product, but it covers our apparatus going out and the staffing required to deploy it. On a typical motor vehicle collision with a fluid leak, we deal with 5 fluids: diesel or gas, engine oil, antifreeze, and windshield washer fluid. I mentioned the words timely fashion just a moment ago. Anytime a fluid with a high environmental risk, such as diesel, gasoline, engine oil, coolant, reaches a waterway, most oftentimes for us anyway, that's through a storm sewer, we have to contact Waste Management, and either they or we need to call the DNR in a very timely manner. If we don't do this in a timely manner, the DNR contacts us. More than likely, a fee will be assessed to us as well. It's simply just DNR regulations. Per a reporting program that Waterloo Fire Rescue's engineer John Eastman made through our current software systems, Waterloo Fire Rescue's responded to 30 calls in the first 6 months of 2024 that required absorbent. Charging for this consumable would have garnered around $6,750. Again, I don't need a new ordinance for this to start this back up. What I'm looking for is basically a fee schedule update. I'm not sure, I couldn't find any paperwork when the $75 was established. The movement, like I said, the movement up to 150 is for us to quickly and professionally put it out there to make sure it doesn't get into any storm sewers.
Council?
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, Mr. Bose.
And you're basing it on the keyword absorbent for the numbers that you gave us now, because had they typed in floor dry.
Right. So yeah, a little bit of how the sausage is made. The way this is the way this is tracked is our ESO program, which is our fire reporting program. Engineer Eastman made a query that would pull the word absorbent out of any narrative. So, for example, if the lieutenant wrote the word floor dry instead of absorbent because he wasn't sure if it was spelled with an E or an A, he puts floor dry down. We didn't catch that one. We would absolutely catch that. We can adjust that and change it to catch just about anything they're going to use.
And I personally would like to see it not say MVA, because we have incidents at a gas station where someone drives off and pulls the hose off, and all of a sudden we have a whole pool of gas there, and we end up using 15 to 20 bags of floor dry. Or we have a car that has a radiator that blows and leaks. It's not an MVA, but it's leaking coolant all over the street, and we get called to use absorbent. So I would like the language not to say MVA myself.
And full disclosure, I was having difficulty finding that ordinance because I don't navigate through our ordinances very well. I will look into how that wording is. If it is wording such as MVA or motor vehicle accident or collision, I would look to change that. A great example is the one at the gas station that the pump is left off and we use 10 bags of absorbent. Keeping in mind, if it's too big, we would call in for our hazmat team, but we would always charge back to the causer of the spill. So if it's at a gas station, the gas station may not be at fault. It would be the person that was improperly using the pump. That person's the one that's charged or billed. It's not the one that owns the gas station. Any other questions on absorbent?
So it kind of goes along with, I remembered my question I was going to ask. So if we're collecting fees and somebody doesn't pay,
Sure.
are we going to bill that to property taxes, or how are we going to?
We already have a collections agency that we use for not only ambulance bills, but any type of anything that runs through the fire marshal's office that we can piggyback onto that, I'm sure.
Okay.
No, I'm not at this point looking at adding to property taxes. We'll just go through our typical collections.
I just wanted to make sure that we, I know you're not trying to this isn't going to make us any money really, but just to help absorb some costs that we do incur. So I just want to make sure that if we are trying to do this, that we do have a way to collect from folks.
I would venture to bet the first two things we've talked about, the car fires and the absorbent, if we have $50,000 in revenue annually, I would be surprised. It's not going to be a lot. This is simply just some cost recovery.
Absolutely. Thank you. All
right, and last one we'll talk about is commercial building fires. This is similar in category to the absorbent that we do have an ordinance on the books already. We started that ordinance in 2001. We fell off around 2020 as a collection of events occurred. First, the administrative assistant that was tasked with pulling the reports and reviewing the billing left the department. Secondly, the lieutenant that did the actual reviewing and billing was promoted from lieutenant to battalion chief. And third, that new lieutenant in that position, because the administrative assistant wasn't sending them the information, they didn't know enough to look into it. We had COVID kick in about that same time. If you remember, it's a little pandemic we had, and we just kind of dropped the ball on it. So this is a revisiting of that. So what I would be doing is not asking for a new ordinance, and I'll show through the next few slides, I'll actually be showing some upgraded costs to better reflect what our costs are. So our 2001 Code of Ordinances 9-2.5 defines a commercial building as a building or complex. The most common commercial building fire that Waterloo Fire Rescue goes to would be residential. Commercial building would be 4 or more units. So any 4-plex, 8-plex apartment complex, all those that you have in your wards, those are considered commercial building possible. To continue with the ordinance 9-2.1, it set a minimum fee of $500. Allowed for the Waterloo Fire Rescue to invoice the property owner, and it gave the fire chief the ability to waive that $500 or whatever the cost was. Again, and it's not real in depth on the cause of why they would waive it. I would look at, just like we were with the car fires, I would look for a very defined rule and line in the sand, basically, that we would work off of that. Again, just to protect me, just to protect the city. This is just simply the rule. It's not my arbitrary opinion. So those 2001 pricing, back then we had a command vehicle that was $95 for the first hour, $95 for each additional hour. We had an aerial device, which was $300 for the first hour, $200 for every additional hour. Engines were $200 for the first hour, $100 for the additional hour. And ambulances were $195 for the first hour, $195 for every hour after that. Looking at those numbers, the command car, it's that one in the top left. That typically has one individual in it. He's the incident commander. He's the one that kind of runs the show. The top right, the one with the big ladder on it, is called the aerial. That is our aerial device that comes with 2 people. Every engine on the bottom left goes with, has 3 individuals on it, and every ambulance has 2. So a typical commercial building fire can last anywhere from an hour to days. One of the more famous ones, and Councilperson Bozen, I believe, was on in 1992 or 3. Weyerhaeuser. I was in college at the time. I was still a kid. But that was a several days incident, just because of the major fire load and the absolute difficulty in getting to that source of the fire. On a typical commercial building fire, not all apparatus stay the entire time. It's the incident commander's job to call for additional resources, which may be another engine, maybe another ambulance, and also release apparatus as needed. Typically, one of the first ones that gets released is the aerial device, just because if it's not needed, it's 2 individuals. That individual on the seat there is the captain, and he is often the second in command on the shift, so that they're available for the rest of the city. So some proposed rate increases. I pulled these from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics as a rate adjustment. Again, these are numbers from 2001 that I'm upgrading to 2024. I would do away with the first hour every additional hour. And what I did was basically I just found the median difference between those two, and I used that number to increase it. So for that command vehicle that has 1 person, we'd be charging $170 per hour. The aerial device would be $450 an hour. That's 2 people. The engine or rescue truck is $270 per hour. It's 3 per engine, and we have at least 3 engines for every fire call initially, and $350 for the ambulance fees. I also increased the minimum charge to $1,110. Now, when you add up all of those, in 1 hour, we would have over $2,000 there. We do have the incidences where we can get on scene. That first crew has a quick, immediate knockdown. There definitely was a fire. We have to go through all the routes. But the incident commander, like I mentioned before, he can pull pull apparatus away, he can cancel people before they even get on the scene. And that would, on calls like that, you would probably just be finding the minimum charge. There was still fire, we still took action, there was still investigation, but we didn't need all the apparatus for all that amount of time. Tracking, we would have timely tracking that would be done on shift by on-shift personnel. We would need no additional software. We would need no additional overtime or personnel hired. It would all be in-house on time. Unpaid invoices, like we talked before, would go to our collections agency. So in summary, at our next council meeting, you're going to see 3 different individual ordinances for your approval. They include a $500 fee to the owner of any vehicle that Waterloo Fire responds to that's deemed a car fire. This fee has never been implemented by Waterloo Fire Rescue before. I believe for a city this size, I couldn't find any examples where a city this size charges for car fires. I've seen smaller paid departments that have. We would be one of the biggest ones, at least in the Midwest, from what I can find. The second is an increase to the fee associated with the use of absorbent in situations where engine fluids are leaking. And finally, it would be a request to adjust the fees associated with commercial building fires. Any questions about commercial building fires or anything I've talked about today?
Council?
Go ahead. Okay. Well, one thing I didn't see on the commercial building fires was the fire marshal vehicle.
Right.
And we, on a large scale fire, we usually call the fire marshal in. And I personally think the fire marshal's vehicle should be added to that, even if it's not an incendiary fire. Personally, I think we should come up with a fee for that.
Sure.
That's just my opinion. Being I've been with fire marshal for a number of years. And also, prior to these coming before council for us to vote on, I would really like to see our set guidelines that we're going to come up with for the waiving the fees.
I will have those as part of the package.
Okay.
Kelly will make sure I get all that stuff with it. I'm still a little new at that whole aspect of it. And
I would really not want to adopt these fees
100%.
without the waiver included in that, so that we had a set numbers that they make this income threshold, you have the opportunity to waive it. Okay, thank you.
Yep. And just to keep everybody clarified too, as far as the fire marshal goes, typically the fire marshal is called after the initial knockdown of the fire is done, but it's very realistic that he could be there several hours after everyone else is left. And we typically keep an engine company with the fire marshal, one for in case he has any questions. I'm sure there's a fire marshal up there will tell you it's a blue collar job. It's not all glamour. It's a lot of digging through ash and dirt and mess. So we keep some personnel there just to help them. Also, we don't like to ever have somebody alone on a scene. So that could expand out several hours.
Were you done, Mr. Boza?
Yeah, I'm done. Thank you.
Mr. Chaz?
So will all of these fees be assumed to be assessed eventually to an insurance company? Or for example, with a commercial fee, is that assumed that an insurance company would pay for that, or would the business owner pay for that, or the property owner?
If they had the insurance that would cover it, they
Okay.
certainly would.
Okay.
I would, I guess, as a business owner.
I would hope so. And for the commercial fee and increasing, you said something about we didn't do it for a little while and we're doing it again. Could you just
We
clarify
haven't
that?
started back up again.
We haven't started back up
No,
again.
no,
Okay.
we haven't done it for probably 3 or 4 years.
Okay, and that was due to the pandemic?
A whole host of issues. The person that would go through them would simply just go through every report. And if it looked like a fire, she would send it to the lieutenant that was to go through it, happened to be me. And I would then go through all of those to find the ones that were actual commercial fires, and then I would bill out that way. Well, when I got promoted to battalion chief, I got a whole new set of jobs. The person that took my job, you don't know what you don't know. You don't miss things that
Right.
aren't there. It just kind of dropped off.
So is that something that's going to be trained and consistent from now on? Or is there a software that we're using that differentiates these types of fires?
So these types of fires, it's going to be similar to what was done before. Through our reporting system, we can look at, it's the 100 series of fires. It's all fires. Once a month, that lieutenant can simply just go through them and pull each one up and in a matter of moments see this was a commercial fire, this is not a commercial fire.
Is there not a way that one of our softwares that we have purchased or Routeware or anything like this could separate these so that it's just automatic? So that way we don't have this
Human
one day, yeah, a human error, or you won't be here 50 years from now, so we don't see the same. Well, we didn't do it for 3 years because someone new came in and didn't understand it. Is there a way we can automate that portion of it? Or
Probably-
that could be something you could look at.
We could probably set a program up similar to what we did with the absorbent and be able to pull information out of,
Pull a query.
pull a query. right?
Yes.
So it'd be easy because any commercial fire is going to trip the aerial or ladder truck. So you could simply do a query for 311, which is the number for the aerial. You'd pull up every call that the aerial went on for the month, and that's where they would then start. I don't know enough about our billing, our reporting program, if we could pull that information out or not.
It would,
Typically, the way it's categorized is simply building fire.
okay. Well, I'm just thinking about from an efficiency standpoint in the future. You know, I do a lot of things at the university, and I have in my past where I've had to be able to find a specific thing. And yes, I, as the experienced employee or faculty member, can look through and say, okay, yeah, that was obviously a violinist because they're playing this piece. But if a staff member was looking, like one of our secretaries was looking, and I called, hey, I need to find this, they wouldn't be able to just guess because they wouldn't know where that piece goes to. Not saying that that's something that happens with you, but it sounds like there was this inconsistency. So I would personally like to see some type of implementation that would make that automatic. So it just takes out that human error completely. And it might take a change in input where your input might have to be a little bit more specific up front, where you say, okay, this is a commercial fire, and you have to put that up front, then you can find that. But just in case, I like to eliminate any error that's possible, and it makes sure that it's consistent, because this is really a big deal, and I'm really happy that you're addressing it.
Yeah. Again, I would have to look at if we could add a NIFRS code for commercial building fire, and then I think we still fall into the possibility of human error if it didn't get clicked as a commercial fire. It was just
Of
simply as
course.
a building fire. One of the ways I think we could alleviate that concern would be, and it's the fire department is built on redundancies. Instead of just training one person, we would have two. That
Right.
if Lieutenant Smith is on vacation for a week, it's the end of the month, it's normally when we do it, then Lieutenant Johnson can come in and at least cover for him, at least get
Right.
the list set up.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for doing this. It's really appreciated.
Yeah.
I have another follow-up whenever you guys are done.
Do you have any?
No, that
Rob?
was my
No.
question.
Okay, Mr. Bozen.
Where are we at with commercial alarms?
Commercial alarms that are not fire,
Right, because the aerial gets tripped out, correct?
not on a commercial, not unless it's a fire.
Okay, so.
That changed.
I'm saying a notifier alarm.
Notifier alarm, that changed probably 12 years ago, at least, to where a commercial notifier alarm trips out one engine.
Okay, so, but didn't we have a fee structure if we kept going back to the same?
Yes, there is one set up. I don't have any real information on it that I can give you hard facts on.
Okay,
But that goes through the battalion, or the fire marshal's office.
but I think that we should look at that too, because if we're going to raise our truck fee for a commercial fire, and then we have a nuisance alarm type of a policy where we're sending the trucks to the same place over and over and over, and that trips that.
Yes, that would trip out easily and be easily observable.
So I think as you bring these forward, I would really like to see that also included, maybe not in 2 weeks, but an update to that, so that our fees that the fee for that engine company is matching the fees that we're charging everybody else. If that makes sense, what
Yeah,
it
I'm
is.
just writing a note here.
Yes.
That's all I have, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
I have a motion, please.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Thanks, Bill.
You bet.